Hey, we're still talking about this equation here. All right, we're looking at 5. I just want to keep that in mind. Looking at 5, I believe, on the problem set. Yeah. I think I'm going to start labeling this stuff. Let's see. 5. How's that? All right. Um, let's see. Doing some internal calculations here. Let's see. Okay. All right. We're doing 5. Okay, so we have negative 9 times negative 2i is equal to, so we're going to multiply the two real parts here. So we got negative 9 times negative 2 is 18. And that's it. It's just 18i. That's pretty easy. All right, let's look at 6. No need in changing colors, I don't believe. So 9i times 1 minus 3i. And this is going to be equal to, so distribute this 9i across. That's what we want to do here. So 9i times 1 is just 9i. And then 9i times negative 3i is negative 27i, and I times I is just I squared. I times I is just I squared. All right. So we end up with negative 9i minus, now you must be asking, what is I squared? What in the world could that be? Well, I'm going to tell you it's negative 1. Now we're going to go back up to here. All right. I is defined to be the square root of negative 1 is the square root of negative 1. Okay? So think about this. If you're trying to solve for this equation, you'd have to square root both sides. So we'd end up with x is equal to the square root of negative 1. Well, what is x? Well, by the definition, it's equal to, in this particular case, x would be I. So you see we could take I in here, and if we square I, we get negative 1. All right. So in other words, if we square both sides here, by squaring both sides, okay, by squaring both sides, we end up with I squared is equal to negative 1. I squared is equal to negative 1. Okay. And so once we go down here, all right, so that's the reason I wrote negative 1 is replacing I squared. So as time goes on, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Negative times negative is a positive, so we have plus 27. Plus 27. So we want to write this in standard form. Write the real part first, and then the imaginary part, and it's in the standard form. 27 plus 9i. Okay, standard form. All right. And let's see, that was 6 there, so let's look at 7. Okay, so we have 2i times negative 10i. Right, so you should be able to whip that one out pretty easily. So we have 2 times 10 is 20, but it's going to be negative 20. Right? And then I squared. Now remember what I squared is. I squared is equal to negative 1. So replacing this I squared with negative 1, we end up with 20 as being our final answer. All right. Okay, let's take a look at number 8. Number 8, what is number 8? Okay, so we're going to multiply two complex numbers together. 2 plus 3i. 2 plus 3i times 1 minus 7i. I guess I should probably talk a little bit louder. So 2 times, okay, so here we go. We're going to FOIL this thing out. First terms, FOIL, right? First terms, 2 times 1 is 2, okay? Plus, outer terms, 2 times negative 7i is negative 14i. Inside terms, 3i times 1 is just 3i, and then outside term, or last terms, 3i times negative 7i is negative 21i squared. Okay, so just think of this, you're just going through all the combinations. 2 times 1, 2 times, or look at this one, 2 times this number, and that, and then this, and then this right here. It's just all the combinations. Alright, now what we'll want to do is get this in standard form, so let's take a look at all the real parts. Now this one here, now remember, can be rewritten. You know what, we'll just go ahead. Let's combine our imaginary numbers here. Whoops. Okay, so negative 14 plus 3 is negative 11. Is that right? And then, of course, this is minus 21 times negative 1. Okay, so 2 minus 11i, and then plus 21. A negative and a negative multiplied together is positive. So we get 21, 22, 23. 23 minus 11i. Right? 23 minus 11i. Okay. All right. Let's where are we at on time? I try to make these just 10 minutes long. Okay. Let's go ahead. And that was number 8, so it looks like we're doing number 9. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, so we're looking at number 9 now. Still multiplying two complex numbers. So we're going to have 4, let me put number 9 over here. Right. So we're going to have 4 minus 3i times, so you should be working this one out, 11 plus 2i, right? So 4 times 11 is 44. 4 times 2i is 8i, right? 4 times 2. Then negative 3 times 11 is negative 33i, right? And then negative 3 times 2 is negative 6i squared, because we have I times I. Now let's get this in standard form. All right. 44, let's see, we have 8 minus 33, what is that? 25, okay. 25i minus 6 times negative 1, right? I squared is negative 1. So we end up with, I guess we'll write this again, minus 25i. So we have a minus and a minus multiplied together gives us a positive, and it's just a 6. And now we have 50, is that right? 50 minus 25i. Bam, there it is. Okay, where are we at on time? I think we got time for maybe one more. I don't know. Let's look at number 10 here. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different. 2 plus I. This is where that one property comes in called the conjugate. Okay, so remember, we want to get it in this form here, a plus bi. We've got to get it in that form. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the denominator here, and we're going to multiply the denominator by its conjugate, but what we do to the bottom, we also must do up here at the top. So 2 plus I. See that? Okay, that's called multiplying through by the conjugate. We got to get this thing in standard form. Okay, so 1 times 2 plus I is just going to be 2 plus I. So when we multiply by its conjugate, what we're going to end up down here in the denominator is just a real number, and that's what we want. So 2 times 2 is 4. Right? 2 times negative I is just negative 2I. And then positive I times 2 is just plus 2I. And then of course I times I, one's positive, one's negative, is going to be a negative I squared. And of course we need to go ahead and extend that on out. Okay, so let's clean this thing up. We have 2 plus I over, okay, so as you can see, these two cancel out. You have 4 minus I squared. Now remember what I squared is. I squared is just negative 1, so we have 4 minus negative 1. Go ahead and write it out like over here. So we have 4 minus a minus, that's going to be a plus, so that's going to end up being 4 plus 1 is 5. Alright, and then of course we'll want to break this up. We want to get it into that standard form. Right, 1/5 I. Okay, so we have 2/5. Whoa, something is fishy here. Something is fishy, and you probably saw it and you were screaming at me. Okay. Alright, sorry about that. So I meant to put a minus here and I put a plus. I mean, we put 2 minus I in the denominator. We have to put 2 minus I up here in the numerator. Yeah. So let's put a minus there and a minus there. Okay. And of course, we need to do the same here. Yeah. 2/5 minus 1/5 I. Right. Okay, so I guess we're moving on to number 11.